died. Because a puny insect, a gnat that entered his nose. Abraha moved towards the Kaaba with his large army and elephants to demolish it. But he was disappointed when he reached there because Allah sent a flock of birds, each holding 3 pebbles of mud in their beak and claws. They dropped these pebbles on them and they all were destroyed. One day Prophet Sulaiman a.s. said, "I want to rest today. No one should come to me." Then he went to the roof and stood there supported by his staff walking stick. The angel of death took away his soul. In this same condition, remembrance of Allah, remembrance of God is of 2 types. Obligatory and recommended. Obligatory remembrance is in 3 situations. The first type of obligatory remembrance is that when man sees a creature he should remember its creator. Seeing the created things he should recognize the unlimited power and wisdom of God. He should consider Allah as the fountainhead of all bounties and should accommodate his love in his heart. In order to recognize Allah in the first stage, this type of remembrance is obligatory. When man has recognized Allah to the obligatory extent and begins to love him and becomes his devotee, then continuous remembrance of Allah becomes recommended upon him. That is, it would be recommended that whenever he sees a creature he should remember its creator. Whenever he sees a bounty he should consider it to be a gift of Allah. And in this way he should never forget Allah. Such remembrance is the best worship act. There are many verses in the Holy Quran emphasizing such remembrance. Those who remember Allah standing and sitting and lying on their sides and reflect on the creation of the heavens and the earth. Remember therefore Allah's benefits and do not act corruptly in the land, making mischief. 62. Remembrance does not stand for mere verbal remembrance, rather it denotes remembering Allah all the time. In the same way Quran says, "Remember therefore Allah's benefits and do not act corruptly in the land, making mischief." 63. This verse implies that if there is remembrance of Allah, there would be no mischief, and when there is no remembrance of Allah there would definitely be mischief. Destruction is certain, and forsaking the remembrance of Allah is destruction itself. In the same way it is mentioned in Quran. So when you have performed your devotions, then laud Allah as you lauded your fathers, rather a greater lauding. 64. Pride on ancestry. Before the advent of Islam, after performing the rituals of Hajj, the Arab polytheists used to stay in Mina for a few days. There they lauded their ancestors in poetry readings among the different tribes. Allah revealed this verse to end this custom. Nothing but pride is gained by lauding one's ancestry and it could not even benefit the descendants in the hereafter. Whereas Allah has granted man all the bounties in addition to ancestors. Allah rears men through one's parents. Thus all the bounties are from Allah only and He is more deserving of praise than the ancestors. In addition to material bounties Allah also bestows spiritual ones. The Quran says, "And remember Him as He has guided you, though before that you were certainly of the erring ones." 65. Also the Quran says, "But when the prayer is ended, then disperse abroad in the land and seek of Allah's grace and remember Allah much, that you may be successful." 66. Remembrance and thanks all the time. To remember Allah after getting His bounties increases recognition, love and faith. Till the time one achieves recognition, love and faith, it is obligatory to keep remembering Allah. After that it becomes desirable and it enhances faith. Remembrance of Allah after seeing the bounties is actually thankfulness. However, to remember Allah on every bounty and all the time is very difficult, rather impossible. There are uncountable bounties of Allah upon every person and unintentional negligences of people are also incalculable. The Quran says, "And if you count Allah's favors, you will not be able to number them." 67. One breath. Man breathes more than 20,000 times in 24 hours. He remains unmindful in sleeping hours, but after awaking also he does not pay attention to a favor like respiration. If breathing stops for a few minutes, man would die at once. Sadi Shirazi has stated in an excellent way, "When the breath goes inside it gives life and when it comes out, it refreshes." 68. Therefore there are 2 blessings in every breath and we should be grateful for each breath. In what manner can we thank Allah? All the creatures, including the angels, together cannot thank Allah sufficiently. Man forgets himself. One who remembers Allah more and more will get, in addition to divine recognition and God's love, the benefits and happiness of both the worlds, while forsaking Allah's remembrance makes one a victim of misfortune and deprivation. One also forsakes Allah's remembrance, forgets his own self. He does not fulfill his own right. He does not achieve happiness in the way of faith and actions. Almighty Allah says in Quran, "And be not like those who forsook Allah, so He made them forsake their own souls. These it is that are the transgressors." 69. Such people forget to obtain for themselves the provision of the hereafter. Man is not only a physical body. Intellectual and textual proofs, Quran and traditions show that the reality of man is his soul, and his body is just its vehicle and the medium of its actions. All the movements of the body are due to the soul. When the soul exits the body it cannot make any movement, but even after death, man's soul remains. The soul is immortal and would remain forever. If in the world it causes good deeds to be performed through the body, after its expulsion it gets their benefits and lives in peace. But if in the world the soul causes man to do bad deeds through his body, it also suffers a lot of grief and sorrow afterwards. The common man considers his material life to be everything. He thinks he would be annihilated after death. He thinks his body is everything. That is why he does everything for his body, but does not even think about his soul. For the well-being of the body, he refrains from every comfort and delicacy but does nothing for the health of his soul. He goes for major operations on his body and spends all his wealth in it but cultivates the greatest of spiritual diseases. He does not care that he would be punished for thousands of years in the purgatory. Barzakh. Man forgets his soul, that is his self, and this is the result of forgetting God. We do not say that you must not treat the body if it is sick. It is necessary to have it cured so that it can accomplish good deeds according to the commands of God. What we say is that along with the treatment of the body, we should also pay attention to the remedy of the soul. The cure of the soul is 1,000 times more important than that of the body. The life of the hereafter is much greater in comparison to the short life of the world. The hardships there are many times greater than worldly problems. We must arrange for avoiding those hardships. Spiritual diseases also cause pain and hardships in the world, and physical aches are nothing compared to them. Observe this yourself. Material comforts do not remove spiritual pains. Concern for obligatory and unlawful acts. The second instance when remembrance of Allah is obligatory is while performing an obligatory or an unlawful act. One should not be lazy in fulfilling an obligatory act and abstain from unlawful acts in all circumstances. For instance, one should not leave a fast without any valid reason in the month of Ramadan and perform Hajj when it is obligatory upon us. When it is time to pay the zakat or khums at the end of the year, we must pay it immediately. One should remember Allah in difficulties and must never despair of His mercy. Once a person begins to remember Allah in unlawful and obligatory acts, then if there is occasion to perform recommended deeds, it is better if he is capable and has divine opportunity to also perform these recommended deeds. It is recommended that when meeting Muslims, one should be first in saluting. If anyone salutes, it becomes obligatory to reply. He should be kind to the relatives and behave with his blood relatives and those related to him by birth in such a way that they are pleased with him. For example, if a relative is sick, one should visit him. If he is in some difficulty, he should try to solve the problem. For instance, if the relatives become unhappy for not visiting them in their sickness or solving their difficulty, then it would become obligatory. Even if they do not become unhappy, it is recommended to treat them with kindness. Although if there is a clash between the pleasure of relatives and divine law, the latter would get precedence. The same applies when facing prohibited acts. At this time also it is obligatory to remember Allah. If there is risk of a prohibited glance, we must lower the gaze or move it away. If there is risk of hearing an unlawful sound, we should stop it or retreat